Welcome to everyone. All of our planning commission members are in attendance, and we have Chad and Carol and our land use attorney Beer Watts with us tonight. We're doing this by teleconference. We will do the best we can because it doesn't always work the way we think it should. The first thing we have is consent agenda. That's to approve the minutes of October 8th. The financial report of November 5th and the correspondence. Is the motion to accept the agenda as presented? Someone wave at me or something.
So moved.
Okay, Stephanie moved to accept the consent agenda as presented. Is there a second for it? Austin seconded. All those in favor of accepting the consent agenda say aye. Aye. Yes, the rest of you? Okay.
Aye.
All right. Raise your hand or do something. All right, Ron.
Aye.
Are you okay? Okay, great. All right, so it's approved. Reports. Report from staff. Carol, do you have anything to report, or does Chad have something to report?
No,
I don't have anything to report at this time.
and same with
Chad
me.
has nothing to report. Carol has nothing to report. Commissioners, this is your chance to unmute yourself if you have something that you would like to tell us about or something of importance. This is the time. Anyone have anything? Austin?
Yeah, I just wanted to report on the Parks Planning Commission or planning commission or Parks Management Planning Commission meeting that we had this in October. We basically came down to an idea that we are going to seek some public comments and feedback on how the parks should be either managed or going forward with the management plan. And so we have, each member has submitted at least 3 questions to staff to put together a survey that's going to be going out either by mail or by online. We get to see what those questions will be, and at least that will start kind of getting our public feedback process going into the advancement of the plan itself. So just wanted to let you guys know about that.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks. Anyone else? Get out of it. Nothing else from any of the other commissioners?
No.
Okay. Great. Go with. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you have something to say? No? Okay, the goals list. We have any comments, any additions, anything to do with, the goals list? No, Stephanie, Austin, nothing. Ross?
No.
Oh? No? No. Okay. Terry, are you good with it?
Yes,
Terry?
yes, I'm
You're
here.
good with the goals list? Okay, are you good with the goals list? Any changes?
He said yes.
No?
He doesn't have any.
He said yes. Okay, all right. So I am going to leap forward here. This is a time for visitors' comments that are not related to a C1 zone text amendments or the final plat of the Bank to Land partition. Are there any comments? Now, is Chad taking care of this?
Who's talking?
The chairwoman is,
Linda Barb is talking.
There's no
Okay,
video of
Linda
that
Barb,
person.
did you have a comment?
No, it's Carrie Sendali.
Hi.
Okay, Stephanie
We
is
can't
coming
tell who's
through.
We can't tell who's talking.
It's Jenny Dim, the president of the planning commission.
She's not showing up on video.
Okay. I'm here, I can see myself.
Oh, that's good.
If you have a comment not related to one zone amendments or plat, no. Okay. Chad?
Yes, ma'am.
Chad? Can you see if anyone has any comments to make?
I don't think so.
I don't show anybody looking to make any comments or raise any hands at this point.
Okay. All right. So we're going to reopen the public hearing on C1 zone text amendment. At the prior meeting, I will not be reading the disclosure statement. But I do need to, last time I asked if anyone had a conflict of interest. I just need to check with commissioners to see if anything had changed in the last month. If there's a conflict of interest now that you did not have before. It looks good? Okay. So I do not need to read the disclosure statement. You shall be thankful for that. But we would begin with the public hearing. And I am first going to hear from, Mr. Watts.
Yes, Chair. We allowed business owners and others to submit letters into the record. It's part of the last process, so we've accepted those into the record. People might not have had a chance to rebut, so if someone wants to rebut the one of the letters that was submitted, we want to give them that opportunity. And then just to clarify that everyone's going to have a full opportunity to enter testimony, whether it's written testimony or oral testimony, in front of the city council when this goes in front of the city council, if in fact you decide to move it forward in some form this evening. Your options, because this is legislative, is that you can adopt what has been provided, you can amend it, or you can reject it, or you can do nothing.
Is this a time? Is
No.
this a time to add something to it?
No, Linda.
No.
Okay.
No.
Can I just
Okay,
add, Peter?
Carol?
Yeah, at the last hearing in October, the hearing was closed. The public testimony was closed. So this hearing has been closed, except for the request for the letter to the business owners downtown, which was provided as a part of the testimony and part of the record. But this is not a public hearing.
Right, so because we allowed the letter into the record, we had to reopen the record for that purpose. If someone has a specific rebuttal testimony to that letter, we'll allow it this evening. If people are supportive of the letter or letters, there are other people who have submitted. Anything that's been submitted between the hearing and now, if this moves forward to the city council, will be part of the record. And people will have a full opportunity, if this goes in front of the city council, then to submit whatever written testimony they want, and provide oral testimony as well.
Okay.
Okay, I have a
But Peter,
question.
well, this is Russ. I want to clear, this is Russ. Can you guys hear me?
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Just wait a second, Russ.
Well, I want
Just
to,
wait a second, Russ.
oh, okay.
Just wait. Let me go, Bart. You cannot, we'll have to just mute you, Chad.
What I want to ask is,
You can't-
I do have a rebuttal to the letter that was
You
written.
Linda?
Ma'am, you cannot interrupt this. You will get called on in time. Okay, Russ, go ahead.
Well, I want to clarify what Peter's saying. He's suggesting that any commentary relevant to the tonight and the business people's letter will be presented to city council, not to us. Is that what he's saying?
Go ahead, Carol.
He's saying two things. He's saying that the letter that was submitted by the property owners is available for anybody to comment on tonight, because that was allowed to be entered in.
Carol, could I just?
Yeah, go ahead.
In order to put the letter into the record in front of the planning commission, which is what you guys requested last meeting, in order to do that, we have to open the record. So the record, in order to enter that letter, which you specifically asked for, we have to open the record to that limited purpose. Any other written materials that we've received aren't in front of, between the last hearing and this one, aren't in front of the planning commission. They will be in front of the city council if you decide to move this forward. Because we did not give people an opportunity to, if the letter had been in front of you last hearing, people would have had the opportunity, if they disagreed with the letter, to say, there's a misrepresentation in the letter, or it's wrong. So if people disagree with the letter, we're going to give them a 2-minute period only to discuss the letter for that purpose, just so that we have a clean record. And then everyone, if they're pro, if they're anti, if they like the letter, if they don't, there'll be a full hearing in front of the city council so that they can, so that their voices can be heard and they can take part of the process at that time. So I guess our hope would be that the people that have comments would, present this to the city council, but we would like to give people the limited opportunity if there's a specific portion of the letter that they wish to provide this evening.
Okay, Russ?
Fine.
Okay, all right. Carol, did you have additional information you wanted to share?
I just would like to do a quick summary, because some people are on that were not at the hearing, and to bring you to the testimony that we've received to help you work through some of the details that might lead to some amendments to your amendments. And so just as a brief reminder, 2 years ago, the Planning Commission became concerned about the vacancies downtown and decided to, see what they could do to help keep and make the city more vital. The goal of these amendments is to modernize some of the uses in the downtown zone, to allow current and future businesses to have more options, increased revenue, and be more successful, while eliminating some of the outdated and restrictive language of the C1 zone. Now, several businesses have shown the way how to modernize the code, including the Sweet Shop, By the Way, Pacific Way. They've evolved from what they originally described and were permitted for, and the city has supported their evolving business ideas and now is proposing to incorporate those methods into the C1 zone for their benefit and as an example of a viable C1 commercial use. Okay. The amendments do not restrict anything that's allowed now. Okay. Now, a question that continues to come up and needs to be clarified is, okay. Let me just take a breath here. One of the letters requests was to change a neighborhood cafe to an outright use. And another one was to eliminate the arts and craft gallery and variety store categories and replace them with a simple retail outright use category. Now, the reason that the Planning Commission's proposal does not do that is because of our comprehensive plan policies. And if you look at the comprehensive plan as it relates to the downtown, it's very specific about its character and protecting it from the negative impacts of traffic and increased tourist activity, in order to protect, the neighboring surrounding properties. The plan even says the city will prevent the city from becoming a tourist destination. And it will work to achieve a level of commercial development that supports the needs of the residents of Gearhart rather than serving a regional commercial center or providing some major tourist destination facilities. And so therefore, the city limits the number of businesses in the C1 zone so that the zone does not become a destination for tourists or end up with some of these other disruptions that come along with it. Those are really explicit plan policies, so the question then is, how does the zoning go about implementing those broad plan policies? And the way that's done is through the use lists, the permitted uses, the conditional uses, and the prohibited uses. And that's why this has been so carefully crafted, not just this time, but when the code was developed many, many years ago. There's a really narrow list of uses in order to satisfy those comprehensive plan policies. Therefore, when the City Planning Commission started to look at how to modify those, it happens in the constraints of those policies that I just generally referred to. Now, I know the Planning Commission knows this, but I think you can't emphasize enough the way the plan is written about the commercial zoning downtown. It's called a neighborhood commercial zone, and the way the uses have been established there to make sure that it functions as the comprehensive plan has designed it to. Now, it doesn't mean that can't change, but it's really critical for everyone to know that was never the intent in the Planning Commission's work or what we're doing right now. If this is a bigger deal that needs to be looked at in terms of the comprehensive plan, that's another story. The Planning Commission has been trying to tweak the code to modernize it and really to reflect what some of the businesses are doing there right now, so that they are, legitimate and encouraged, and to bring in more revenue and more services to the community. So that's why if you took all those uses away and you said, let's just allow retail uses in the neighborhood commercial zone, whatever they might be, it's a very broad category. And if you did that, you would be in opposition to the comprehensive plan. And the
So
same
in order to do that, we would need to, because some people requested a canopy style downtown. So we would need, before that code could be adopted, we would need to amend the comp plan. And then after the comp plan was amended to remove this language, the code could be amended to allow that sort of use. But that sort of use can't happen under the current C1 zoning.
Okay, so that's where we are now. The Planning Commission, as I said, spent a long time doing this. And so I thought I would just touch on a few of the recommendations that are worth considering. There was some good testimony that we might want to consider. So I'm looking at the summary document that I have in my hand that I think you all have. It's on the website. It's dated today. To talk about those, and I'll just run through them and then go back to the Planning Commission and whoever else has something to say to figure out what you want to do tonight. The first one is for a neighborhood market and a neighborhood cafe. The code is currently silent on any outdoor seating, and it's recommended that both of those zones be amended to allow unlimited outdoor seating if it's on private property, and also allow sidewalk seating within the ADA specifications for making sure there's enough room to pass. So that would be a good amendment to make based on what some people said. As far as the neighborhood cafe goes, number 2, the amendments eliminate the current definition restrictions that alcohol sales can only be for wine and beer. So it's opening up hard liquor as well. It's also eliminating the existing requirement that a neighborhood cafe be open for 11 months a year and must be closed by 10 p.m. The amendments are eliminating those 2 things. The amendments retain that customers shall be seated at tables having no more than 1,300 square feet as it is now, but it takes out the 40-seat maximum. Okay, that would be some suggested changes. Now, number 3 is there was some criticism about prohibiting the amusement activities, sports, and recreational equipment rental uses. And we suggest you change that wording because it is too wide open. There's no reason that somebody can't rent, a pickleball racket or a tennis racket or something that fits in Gearhart's recreational repertoire. And so, but maybe better to say prohibit amusement parks, arcades, or Surrey-style bicycle rentals. This really, the intent was to do that and not make it too open to criticism or challenge. Okay, a 4th idea was that formula use, which is also considered a chain store or a chain store, like McDonald's, Starbucks, and all the others. There's a definition proposed to not allow those, and this definition came from the Cannon Beach. And basically, in this little tiny downtown C1 zone, it is not desirable to attract those uses and compete with our local businesses. And so the definition there tells you what a formula use is. And initially it said, any restaurant, bar, entertainment, or retail use that has more, 4 or more establishments in operation in the United States. And we're suggesting that that might be a little restrictive. Cannon Beach uses 11 as their threshold. And we're suggesting that maybe you compromise between 4 and 11 and open that up so that it doesn't become a problem that was unintended to 7. Okay? Number 5 is the draft as it stands prohibits gambling. And we are suggesting that you remove that as out of our control and really under the control of the state. Number 6, off-street parking. Right now, if a new business builds a new structure, they have to provide off-street parking on their site. And everybody knows how small those parcels are in the C1 zone. If you had to put parking on a parcel with a new structure, half of the small piece of property would end up for parking. And number 7, we suggest you eliminate the design guideline that's in the code. It is very vague and subject to challenge because it would be difficult to enforce and determine what exactly it means. And the last suggestion is that it's not a suggestion for any change, but when it comes to allowing residential uses in the C1 zone, which are not allowed now, the Planning Commission's draft proposes allowing them, both for the ones that are there, but also to encourage new structures to include a certain amount of residential space, both for employees to live in and for a different kind of housing option in the city. Now, the Planning Commission recommends 50% of the property could be used as a maximum for housing. And the reason is for the 50% is number 1, it's simple to design a building that has an upstairs and a downstairs. And let's say the upstairs is residential and the downstairs is commercial. That's right, easy to divide in 50%. And the other reason is if you made it larger or completely open-ended, then of these tiny 13 properties that are zone commercial, you could end up with an awful lot of residential. And that is not the intent. It's a commercial zone. It's a small commercial zone. It's surrounded by residential. And it doesn't make sense to give up that land for too much of that land for residential use. And so that's the end of my attempt to summarize some of the suggestions that we received, and from there, I'd give it back to the chair, Madam President, and the ability for the Planning Commission to discuss these.
You needed a drink, Carol?
Yeah.
Stop.
Are you okay?
Okay. So, before we continue our discussion amongst the planning members, as Mr. Wallace has said, we will give anyone 2 minutes to rebut the letter that was submitted to us by Tracy Williams and signed by other entities in your heart. Are there any rebuttals to the letter? Unmute yourself if you need to rebut it. I'm not seeing it. Is that correct, Chad?
Repeat the question.
That's what I understand, and everybody who is on telephone currently is unmuted, so they had an opportunity to talk.
Can you repeat the statement?
I said, because the letter that we had requested at the last meeting, as Mr. Watts explained, we need to, since it's been added into the testimony, give anyone an opportunity, 2 minutes, to rebut the letter. That is, you don't agree with it. Your turn.
Jeannie? Is this? Hello?
This is, and if you are speaking, you need to give me your full name, your mailing address, and your residence address if it's different.
I'm not rebutting the letter, I'm simply making a suggestion. If everyone would mute,
No, that's what I asked for, ma'am.
I understand, but if everyone would mute if they're not speaking, then we could hear whoever's speaking. Right now, I can hardly hear you speaking. So if you're not,
Thank you, Eric.
you should
I'm
mute.
sorry.
Jenny, this is Chad. There's very few people.
I've been-
Mrs. President, I think the problem is that you're really choppy. And it's hard to,
And you're not?
I don't know if I'm choppy.
You're so, I hear every other word.
Okay,
It's just the system.
Jeannie,
I can speak slower.
if
Yeah.
everyone is speaking, everyone else would mute, then they can unmute to speak. We've got everyone on, not on mute, and that's why we're getting all this feedback right now.
Cindy, thank you. This is Chad Street here, City of Gearhart. Everybody is on mute with the exception of just a couple of the commissioners. The problem that we have is connection speeds, and that has been a problem with the meeting today. They've been a little bit slow, and Jeannie may be experiencing some of that. So we're just going to have to slow it down a little bit, listen, and do our best. But we're doing everything that we possibly can. I'm monitoring all of the microphones at this very moment, and very few are open.
Okay. So, are there any rebuttals to the letter submitted by downtown businesses?
Is this a
I
time
do
for me to
not.
talk? Hello, Carol? This is Linda Goldfarb. Is this a time for me to
Yes?
say something now?
You have a rebuttal. You have a rebuttal to it?
Yes, I do. Okay, this is Linda Goldfarb. My PO box is 2716 in Gerhart. My business is By the Way. On reading the letter, it was submitted by Joyce Sigler that said I was, my business was illegally operating for the past 5 years. I've been in business in March 7 years. I got a license from the city of Gerhart and the state of Oregon that I have always been in compliance with as a variety shop, which includes having an espresso bar in it. It's written in my state of Oregon. It's also in Gerhart. She has me down, or she said that I was illegally operating as a neighborhood cafe. That is absolutely not true. I've always been a variety shop. The city gave me a license under that. The state of Oregon gave me a license under that. I'm current on my payments. I've never wavered on it, and I just want that set on the record. And that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. All right. Hearing no other rebuttals and not seeing anything, then we will go on with the discussion amongst the planning commission members. Carol has given us, by my count, she gave us 7 proposed changes. Number 8 is leaving it the same, right, Carol? So we really only have 7 proposed changes. So we need to decide whether we want to incorporate those changes in a motion minute, or we don't want to incorporate any of them, or some of them, or go back to our original one. So I'm going to call each of you individually so that I can hear from you, so we can all put you on the spot first. Austin, you speak to the proposed changes, or just leave it as it is?
Yeah, thank you, Virginia. I support all the changes that Carol has proposed to our existing amendments. The only questions I have is to the formula use definition change from 4 to 7. I'm just curious to where that came from, since I did not really see that in the letter that Tracy had provided and the businesses had provided. So we had a lengthy discussion on that over a year ago, and so I'm just curious about just where that came from.
Carol?
There was testimony from the 22 people who wrote something last time that it seemed too restrictive.
Okay.
And that was the main reason. It's kind of a compromise. Again, Cannon Beach, where we basically copied their formula definition, was 11, and Gerhardt chose 4. And there was criticism in some testimony, so it's like somewhere in between.
Okay, I support that then. And just for clarification with the gambling prohibition, from what I can read in our amended proposal is that it is prohibited within the permitted uses, but not prohibited within the conditional uses, which covers the neighborhood cafe and variety store and so on. So my understanding was that that was included in there because we didn't want it to be in a grocery market or have a gallery or an art studio with a gambling or anything like that. So that was just a weird little thing that I noticed. I didn't know if it was, that's how I read it, or I'm happy to remove it completely, but I was just curious the way I read it in our original amendment.
Carol, you want Peter?
Sure.
Yeah.
Under state law, if someone has certain.
Okay, let me try another way.
Peter, do you have the exact language as written? Good.
So, under state law, if you have certain types of alcohol permits, then you're allowed to have a certain number of lottery machines. So, in the way that that statute is structured is that cities are preempted from enacting ordinances that would not allow that. So we have a state preemption issue. That's why when a business opened a couple of years ago, they had 4 video poker machines. And so that was a issue that the city council looked at, and that preemption language is pretty strong. So any local, we could prevent something like a casino, but if we were to attempt to prevent the Oregon lottery, we would be contrary to state statutes.
Yeah, I that's great. Thank you, Peter. And then in the prohibited use language, it says gambling in conjunction with a permitted use. So if we do decide to keep that, I would just recommend that we look at that. But I'm happy to remove it based on Carol's suggestions to our amendments, the way she proposed to us today. So other than that, everything else looks good to me.
Okay. Thank you, Austin. David, would you like to speak?
Do we need Chad to unmute him? Here he comes. Oh, wait, there's Carl. Well,
David, can you speak?
Yes. I have a brief comment about the number 4 outside establishments besides what was proposed with the zoning gear. At the time, we were talking about allowing a few chains to come into Gerhardt C1 zone. One of those was Cougars. One of those was a Pick and Pancake. And there might have been 1 or 2 others that are kind of local chains that had very few outlets. We were encouraging those local chains or formula businesses. Since the discussion, Duggars has shrunk their business model, and I don't think the Pig and Pancake is looking to grow their business model at this time with coronavirus. So we compromised with 4 because we're a much smaller commercial zone than Cannon Beach. Cannon has 2 main establishments for our size commercial zone. Now, when it comes to C2 zone, there's no limitations. So certain limitation of 4 other businesses would be permitted in the C1 zone in Gerhardt as a good compromise already. So that's my recollection of maybe a year ago.
Anything else, David?
Say again, please.
Anything else with the recommendations?
Not at this time, thank you.
Okay. Carl.
Yeah, the only comments that I have are 1, I agree on the idea of the 4, being only 4 of the establishment. On the prohibition of gambling, that needs to be, I don't think it needs to be prohibited, but it needs to be a conditional use. That was you gotta put it under the conditional use area rather than a white prohibited area or an outright prohibited area.
I want to make sure, yeah, Carol.
can I make sure you understood that?
Yeah.
Okay. Carl's suggesting that rather than opening, taking the prohibition of gambling out altogether, that you leave it in as a conditional use instead of a permitted use. Is that right, Carl? Yeah.
Correct.
And I think he also supports the 4 formula.
Carol, that was my original argument, was that in the prohibited uses language that we have now, it says gambling in conjunction with a permitted use. So that opens it up to being a conditional use in my interpretation of it.
Yeah. Well, I think a permitted use would include a conditional use if it were approved.
Right. I guess the language would have to be outright permitted use.
Which is where we are, right, which is where we are headed, I think. It's either outright, and Carl's suggesting rather than going outright, maybe it should be conditional use. But then we run into the statute that in some cases doesn't allow us to do that.
Right, okay. Well, I'll leave it to the attorney for that one.
Yeah.
Okay,
Who did you call on? Russ.
Oh, yes, I think everything is fine. I do agree with Carl and Austin. I like the 4 as opposed to the 7. Our original effort was to keep it very restrictive, and I don't see why. I mean, I just prefer the 4. I think it was appropriate for the size of our commercial zone, and I'd prefer to stick with it. And everything else, I agree that the gambling, it has to be, if someone legally can gamble, then we can't do anything about it. The rest of it, I'm okay with.
okay, thank you. Stephanie?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with almost everybody. I'm fine with everything except number 4. And I also would like to keep the number at 4. I'm not at all happy with 7. We talked about that at length. And it is a very small area, and I think 4 is more than fair.
Okay. Thank you. Terry Graff?
Yes, I'm here. I agree with everything, but I like 4 also. That's what we originally came up with, and I'd like us to stick with that. Other than that, I appreciate what Carol's put together, and I think it's a good job. That's it.
Okay. And as I said, 4 is just fine with me too. I think the gambling is such that I just say remove it. If they're going to be coming in with something, we're going to be able to see it, and we're going to let the lawyers deal with it. I think that we've really come to an agreement tonight, and to take Carol's 7 suggested changes, with the exception of number 4, moving it back to 4 rather than 7. Do I have a motion? Austin?
I move.
You move. Okay. I need you to state your motion.
I move to accept the amendments to our amendments that Carol has proposed except for the formerly loose use definition to remain at 4 instead of 7.
Okay, if I'm understanding your motion to accept our original proposal we started with these amendments added and changing the number of formula stores to 4.
Correct.
Got it. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second from David. So Austin has moved and David has second that we accept the C1 zone text amendments with the 7 additions, or what you call those, suggestions, as presented, except to change it to back to 4 formula stores. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And wait, something. Okay. Russ? Aye.
Aye.
And Terry?
Yes, aye.
Okay. Those opposed, we don't have anyone. It has passed. You may take it on to the city council now. There will be a public hearing and time for people to have input. That meeting will be next Thursday, Carol? At what time?
Chad, 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock. And will that meeting be online?
Yes.
Okay. Good enough. Thank you, everyone. We have no unfinished business. We have new business. The final plat approval, number 20-01P, county file 318620000090, Bantam land partition, 1060 McCormick Gardens Road. Carol, do you have something to share with us?
Yes. You all received all of the land division documents that came with this. It's in its final stage, which you approved last May in its preliminary stage. And the purpose of your review tonight is simply to make sure or to affirm that the decision you made in May has been satisfied by the drawings and documents that are submitted to be recorded at the county. And so I have a 1-page report here dated November 4th in the packet. And it reminds you of the conditions that were attached to your decision. There's 4 of them. And it has an answer to each one of those, which says this condition has been satisfied, with one exception, and that is number 3. If more than 5 trees are planned to be removed, the applicant shall obtain a tree removal permit from the city. And the response to that is there's been no construction on the site yet. So that time has not come. We will have to monitor that. But for purposes of the county, who's also approved their side of this land division, you know, as you recall, the city and county line is between this property. They've approved it, and with your approval, the applicant will take it and record this 3-lot partition at the county. So I recommend you approve the final plat of the Banta partition.
Okay.
No conditions.
All right. Are there any questions for Carol? No. So all I need is a motion to approve the, to approve the plan.
Final.
Okay, Carl has moved to approve the final plat. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded. So Carl has moved and Stephanie second to, for final plat approval. All those in favor say aye.
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 All right, all those opposed? No one's opposed. That's taken care of, Carol. Do we have any concerns of the commission? No concerns. Do we have any questions?
I have a
Questions
concern.
for the land attorney. What, David?
I have a concern.
Okay.
These online meetings are no fun at all. We'll get beyond these in 2021 at the very latest.
Okay. Thank you for your input, David. We have the land use attorney. Do we have any questions for him?
No, you don't.
He left.
Looks like you left.
Okay, it's 7:05. I call, the meeting is ended. I forgot what I was saying. 7:05. Yay. Okay. I thank everyone for coming and participating. Carol, is there much on the agenda for next month?
Nothing.
Okay.
Maybe that's our Christmas gift.
We may not have a meeting.
If that's what you prefer, let's decide that now, because Terry needs to make reservations.
Oh, David doesn't like these meetings.
Hey, can we review the city council time and date for their review of this project? The C1 project?
It's
Thursday, the 18th, is that correct?
19th.
19th,
At 6 o'clock
6 o'clock. Yeah,
on the web.
on the web. The meeting's adjourned, so we're not, I've adjourned the meeting, so now it's casual conversation.
I just
Do we have a reason, if we don't have a reason for a meeting next month, would we all be willing to not see each other again? Austin, love it, Austin, that helps.
good time of the year to have that kind of situation because it's so dark and cold and wet. Even if we're, in our own homes,
I know.
I wouldn't argue with it.
Okay. Hey, Russ?
What about
Yeah,
Carl?
I'm fine with no meeting is okay by me.
Okay. Carl?
Do I just enjoy coming to this meeting? This is my last one.
Oh,
This is your, This is your last meeting?
Oh,
Unless I'm reappointed.
Oh,
did you reapply?
did you apply?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Well,
okay. Yeah,
I probably won't be in town
come on.
this summer meeting anyway.
Um,
I can try, if we do it online, I can call them sincere.
So David and Carl have reapplied for the 2 openings, correct?
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, Carol, if you and Chad see no reason to have a meeting, we will let you not have a meeting.
Well, I think you've worked awfully hard on this topic, and it's a good time to take a Christmas vacation.
Okay. Well, everyone have great holidays. Be safe. Wear your mask. Bye.
Bye-bye.
2021 is going to be better.
Hey.
I hope.